Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. As always, it's me, the Smithie D. In today's video, we are continuing our journey on mods and looking at the best mod sets overall to farm. If the shiny thumbnail didn't give it away, we are going deep into some critical damage mods. So why are critical damage mods rated high among a lot of the player base? From my experience, critical damage mods is one of the few stats that cannot be obtained as a secondary stats on mods. The only two areas you're going to get some extra critical damage is critical damage mod sets and the primary stat on the triangle mod. If you're unfamiliar how the stat applies, it's quite simple. Every character has a set amount of 150% of critical damage. You can receive a total of 30% from critical damage mod sets and a 36% from a primary triangle mod, taking the total including the character's 150% critical damage to a 216%. You may be new to all of this and still scratching your head thinking, what does this mean and how does it affect me? I recently made a video on speed mods explaining some important components on how the speed percentage is applied from mods to your characters. Most mods apply their set bonus before any primary or secondary stats are applied to the characters from mods. Base number stats like speed, health, physical damage, special damage and armor receive a percentage increase from their mod sets. With potency, tenacity, critical chance and critical damage mods, the amount you're receiving is a flat number that is applied on top of the percentage base stat. The biggest requirement to critical damage mods to increase your damage by a percent amount, you will need to score a critical hit. The two ways you can do this is from a high critical chance or the advantage positive effect. However, you will not be able to score a critical hit versus characters that have the critical hit immunity positive effect applied to them. To farm these mods, you want to be farming some Jawas at 5-star or higher and farming the final tier and aiming for some 5-dot mods. Getting some 5-dot mods can be the easy part, but obtaining the secondary stats that you want and need is the most difficult part. So what do you want to be looking out for? Speed is the best stat you want grouped with these mods, followed by critical chance. The secondary speed stats are going to be giving these mods a long life, meaning you're going to be able to keep using them throughout the changes in metas, and you're going to be able to use them throughout the arena and raids. Everybody's dream mod would be a mod with plus 20 speed as a secondary. If you can get a speed stat like that on a critical damage mod with an excellent primary, you just got one of the best mods. On an average, you're going to be seeing a lot of mods with some speeds ranging between 5, 10 to 13, which is a great place to start for your arena and raid characters. Depending on which character you're modding will determine if you apply the critical damage triangle or if you go with a critical chance triangle. If you're not landing critical hits, then a 216% critical damage is going to do diddly squat and leave you at a severe disadvantage. I'm going to now show you guys my roster, a few mods on my characters to how I personally mod them with crit damage and who I wouldn't mod with crit damage. This is my roster. There are many like it, but this one is mine. So we're going to go over briefly. I'm not going to go over every single character in the game, but I'm going to try and keep it to the most important ones of who would need critical damage and where to really put the critical chance over the critical damage triangle on certain characters and what characters would benefit from the 216% critical damage. So the first one on the agenda is General Kenobi. General Kenobi does not need any sort of critical damage. You could put a little bit of critical chance if you want him to crit, but his attack is quite a low damage amount, so you're not really going to be benefiting in this meta, especially if you're going against the Triple Cleanse Rex teams. You don't really want characters like these to crit because it's just then providing the enemy team with turn meter. So as always, as probably about 95% of characters in the game, you want to be having the plus 30 speed arrow. That is quite important to most characters. A taunter or not, you still need to give them speed if they do other duties. So what we know about General Kenobi, he can also do an assist attack and he cleanses, so it's quite important that you do have relatively good speed on him. On the triangle, I've gone for the protection. The speed secondary is right right there, as you'll probably see on all of this. They're not god mods, but they're okay mods, and they do work in the arena. Again, more protection, that's what you want in your General Kenobi, and tanks like him, protection, the more the better. As you can see, I don't really have a big kind of like mod set. I've got the health because that's going to increase his base health. I do use a Zeta Barris, so it's quite important I can get as much health as possible. 18 speed, quite a good mod. I do like this mod. I've had this since mods actually first came out, so it has gone on to a lot of characters and it has been moved around a lot. I do move my mods around for raids, so I'm not kind of one of those guys that have set mods on all my characters. I will move my arena mods to score higher in the AAT or even the Rancor. Last but not least, again, as you can see, I've gone for some more speed secondaries. This works quite well. Overall, General Kenobi stats, they're not too shabby, to be honest. Overall, on General Kenobi stats, as you can see, I've left the critical damage at 150%. His physical critical chance is 29.08%. I'm 100% going to be moving this speed arrow to another character that can benefit from that extra critical chance and swap it over, but I do need to replace that with a health mod if possible, just to keep General Kenobi with his health stats, because I do run a Zeta Barris. But as you can see, his speed is 210. That's quite a good speed for General Kenobi. There are definitely other people out there that have their General Kenobi around about 250, 260 speed. So I think 210 is relatively good. I do use him currently as a leader for the old timeout team with kind of like Nihilus in there. So it does work well. I sometimes swap out Thrawn now and I just change my team up now and again, but I am enjoying running the General Kenobi lead. Baze is a perfect example why you don't need to put critical damage on them, because as you can see, his critical chance is 31.81%. I do use him for raids, so that's mainly where I use him. I don't use him much in the arena anymore, so I do partner him with R2, that gives the extra critical chance. But you could go on living your life not putting any critical damage mods on Baze. He just doesn't need it unless you're going to really put his critical chance quite high, over 50%, then you may see your worth. But as you can see on here, on the triangle, I've gone for a protection, and the main reason I've used these mods is because, as you can see with my General Kenobi, he has all the good mods, he has the health mods. I've got them spread across the board with different characters. As always, I've gone now for the speed. I never used to put the speed arrow on Baze, but I found sometimes, especially in raids, you want to have him some really good speed. You want to get him for raids around about 170 plus for phase 4, so he can do his AoE attack to do that serious damage on the turrets and the B2s. On the last mod down here, again, protection. As you can see, there's no speed secondaries. If I did have better mods, I would speed him up, but I think it's not too much bad of a kind of requirement of what he's got. I could change that for General Kenobi, so that is definitely something while we're doing this video. I've just found where I could make a little bit better. I could change the health mod on General Kenobi, bring over the critical damage mod. I could probably change a few things on this character. But as you can see, we've got the speed there and the speed there, so it's mainly the speed secondaries, and just by chance I've been able to make a critical damage mod set, so it's not really important. You don't want to be putting any critical damage on your Baze. So we've jumped all the way to Darth Nihilus, and what you can see is I don't have a critical damage mod set. You do not need it on Darth Nihilus. He works great without it. He's not there for his DPS. He's there more for his Annihilate, which you do not need any specific mods to kind of like do his Annihilate. So that is kind of great. And what we can see on here is his, I've got the protection with some 11 speed, arrow again, plus 30. Got some potency down there, only for the actual speed of plus 19. You do not need any potency, so you could change that to some protection. But I want to try and keep him at a relatively good speed. Because I'm using a General Kenobi lead, I'm relying on just my mods that I've got on my character. I'm not going to be gaining any speed whatsoever in my arena team, just because I'm not running a Rex leadership. But yeah, it's kind of the same across the board. I'm going to be grabbing speed secondaries, and this is what you want to be looking out for. But there are certain characters like Nihilus, Kenobi, Baze that you don't want to be putting any critical damage mods on whatsoever, because they don't need it, nor is it going to give you an extra big benefit. And those characters kind of lead towards more health mods or speed mods that you could put on Nihilus. You just want to be staying clear of critical damage on these characters, because you do not need them, and neither is it going to give you a huge or significant benefit from it. So this is where the fun really begins, because we have to now work out how would we mod a Kylo Ren? I know a lot of you guys are using a Kylo Ren currently. I used to use Kylo Ren. These mods were his own mods. I don't really use them on him anymore because I just don't use him in the arena. So what we can see straight away at a glance, he has 199 speed, but the most important thing that we can see on here, he has 180% critical damage, but he has a whopping 59.09% of physical critical chance, which I think if you're not running him in a first order team, this is very, very important, and this could be the massive difference that if you decide to put critical damage full out to a 216% on Kylo Ren, or you keep it at 180%. In my preference, 180% is completely fine. So what we can see on this mod, I've got the secondary stats of 6.87 critical chance. So this is a very, very good mod. When I got this mod, I believe it was a gold mod, so it's pretty much done nearly all the way of the critical damage. I think it could have gone higher if it didn't increase other areas, but I'm happy with this mod. One of the best mods that I've got on the arrow, and you want to be putting that on Kylo Ren. You want him to be fast. When debuffs put onto him, he's also going to be gaining some speed, so you want to have him at a good place of around about 190 to 200 is quite a good one for the arena. Always, in my opinion, Kylo Ren, and this is going to be exactly the same on how we'd mod Vader, is pretty much the same setup what I would do with Kylo Ren, you know. So if I was running a Zeta Vader in the arena, these mods would probably go over to Vader and sit on him, and this is the same with Thrawn. These are the same mods except for the actual cross at the bottom. I would change that for Thrawn to protection, but I would keep it with potency at the bottom for Kylo Ren and also Vader. You could change it to protection again for Kylo Ren. I just like to go in for that stun. You know, I'm going to be using outrage a lot, so it's the extra added benefit that I'm going to be able to apply health down. Well, it's the extra benefit that I'm going to be able to stun the enemies when I'm using outrage. So as you can see on here, I've gone for the plus 12 critical chance. The bottom one, and this is the cross, it's a plus 12 speed with potency. It would be great if I could get some more critical chance, but speed to me sometimes is more important if I've got a good staple of a critical chance amount. On here on the bottom one, I've got plus 5 speed, but as you can see, I've gone more for the favour of that extra 5.46 critical chance. So that is my favourite that I would put on the character, trying a way to find that kind of balance so you're getting the best of both. 11 speed on this secondary, followed by the 2.05% critical chance. And the very last one we're looking at, we've got the plus 3.42% critical chance with an 8 speed. So it's quite important to kind of like balance out your characters to make sure you're getting a good amount of speed, but you're not neglecting the other important component, and that is critical chance. But again, this is how I would mod most of the characters that were low on critical chance, and the way that you can see that is by having a look at the character. If you've got a character like Vader and he has around about a 30% critical chance, or even Thrawn for example, he has a 30% critical chance, then if you are putting critical damage on them, you want to make sure that they're critting, and the way you can do that is make sure you're putting the secondaries and you're putting the triangle that is the critical chance. That is a beauty way to actually do it. As you can see, the sets, they're not full. You know, if I had some other great mods or farmed other areas like critical chance, then I could swap that around, and it is something I would do in the future. But for today's video, you know, if you do pick up, hang on a minute, he has 5 critical damage. But the reason behind that is I don't have lots and lots of great mods that I can just swap other areas. I try and balance out my kind of main teams as much as possible, and sometimes that means that I'm not going to get the full, and that's going to be the same for everybody. Unless you've got hundreds and hundreds of great mods, then there is going to be times and days like this where you cannot have full sets all the time. So what we can see straight away, Biggs has a 43.13% critical chance, but what we do know is it's 100% guaranteed to crit on his assist attack as long as the enemy doesn't have any crit immunity or anything that stops crits. So we want to be putting a 216% critical damage on this character to really pack it with a punch, and this is something that a lot of us have done for a very long time on these kind of characters, and it is something that we will continue to do because we're getting guaranteed crits from the character. You can bump it up, the physical critical chance, but because I don't use the character, if he was a meta character, you'd probably see a lot of the mods that I had on Kylo Ren split between a Wedge and Biggs. If you are wanting to know more on how to mod your characters, then make sure that you are checking out gaming-fans.com. It's a great website that has some really detailed guides on how to mod characters, why you should mod them this way. It will give you a great understanding if you do find mods your weak area of why you should mod them in certain ways. It is a website that's used by a lot of people in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, so make sure that you do check it out. If you have enjoyed today's video, then please make sure that you are hitting that like button and subscribing. If you are wanting to have notifications, then please make sure that you are hitting the bell. So what is your thoughts on critical damage mods? Is there anything that you would like to add? Then please let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching today. I'm the Smithie D. May the Force be with you always.